Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And to those of us who are here joining us live, and then to those of us who will be watching the replay later, I want to send you blessings from my heart to yours and to invite you to put aside anything that you've been involved in already today, just to allow whatever relationship conversation you've been in, either whether it's a relationship with yourself or with someone else, or things that you've been taking care of, and just allow yourself, give yourself the gift of being here today and of receiving what I hope will be something that will inspire you and be a practice. We're going to do a practice that you can be engaging in over the next month until we do our next session. So, welcome to episode number 1 of the Life Mastery Foundation series. I'm Maggie Ostara, and I'm delighted that you're here. And I was inspired to offer this series because we're in such an incredibly potent time here on planet Earth. And so, those of you who are tuning in, you may already know I'm a human design expert. And I also have been in the world of personal development and human potential for a long time, most of my adult life, actually. And so I really want to support you to have some tools that you can use and maybe a perspective that will help you with this. And that life mastery is it's really an inside job, right? And this is not mastery over other people. Okay, let's just be really clear about that. And it's not even mastery over yourself in the sense that you're gonna be the master. No, it's not that. So this is not about trying to corral yourself or punish yourself or fit yourself into any boxes. Actually, it's just the opposite. It's about being able to release yourself from ways of being and ways of thinking that have confined you to smaller versions of who you are and who you can be than are possible. And so, what I want to share with you today is in this beginning episode is to share with you about the about purpose and contribution. And this is such an incredibly important part of our lives, particularly now, particularly at this time, that I actually dedicated an entire pillar in my book on feminine sovereignty. If you haven't seen it already, Feminine Sovereignty: 8 Pillars for Regenerating Ourselves and Our World. Pillar number 5 is about purpose and contribution. And it's such an incredibly important topic. And I want to talk a little bit more about why that is, what I think might be beneficial for you if you're somebody who's really kind of seeking, like, how can I have my life feel more meaningful? How can I feel like I'm more on purpose more often? How can I make my best possible contribution in the world today? And that's what we're going to be focusing on now. And it's a key part of life mastery, because when we don't feel on purpose, when our lives don't have meaning, when it's like what you're eating tastes like straw, or you're kind of just going through the motions of your day and you're like, okay, I got to get up, I got to go to work, I got to do this thing, and you're able to do it, you're able to do it, and there's some benefit to it and maybe even some joy in it, but still it's not fueling you, it's not giving you more power into your life force that helps you to really feel like, wow, I am vital, I'm engaged, I'm alive, I have this deep sense of aliveness. And this is really our birthright, is to have that deep sense of aliveness, that deep sense that we are here on this beautiful planet with incredible people, with a multi-layered living world that is giving us everything that we need. Like, this is part of our birthright, and yet we've gotten really divorced from it a lot of times. So I want to say hello to those of you who are gathering here on YouTube and those who are gathering on Facebook. And I want to say hello to Mindful. Is it Mindful Posse? our mindful pose. I want to say hello and thank you. Thank you for chatting. And if you want to go ahead and say, just say a little word of welcome. And if you want to say where you're coming in from, that's always fun to see where we're gathering from different parts of the world. I know that when I look at my YouTube stats, it's like people are all over the place. It's really an exciting thing to be able to be supporting us. And to be helping to raise the frequency of the planet, which is really at the core is what I would say is my purpose, is to help raise the frequency of the planet, to help raise consciousness. And so I want to share a little bit with you today about my story. And as I'm sharing about my story, I invite you to think about your story. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. But first, I want to start us off today by reading something from my book, and to uh, put this question about purpose and contribution into some context, and to share with you what I have learned over all these years. I'm really kind of at my age, I'm stepping into my elderhood and my wise woman self. Those of you who have maybe taken my feminine sovereign archetypes quiz, a lot of you have come away with wise woman. If you don't know that particular quiz, it's really fun. You get some really nice goodies with that. You can go to sovereignquiz.com and check it out. And so I'm really stepping into my wise woman here as I'm sharing this with you today. So I'm just going to read from the beginning part of the chapter on purpose and contribution. My experience is that most people find it more helpful to seek out what makes them feel on purpose rather than finding their life purpose. Purpose is intangible, a feeling or state of consciousness, rather than a thing to be discovered or uncovered. When feeling on purpose, you might feel a deep sense of being well used, that you're contributing the best of what you have to give, that you're expressing your best self and how you're showing up in the world. That feeling of being on purpose arises when your actions and attitudes contribute in a positive way to something that matters to you. If feeling on purpose names an inner state of being, then contribution names that which you provide to something outside of yourself, to your family, your team, your community, your neighborhood, the ecosystem in which you live, organizations that you admire, clients or customers that you serve, and so on. You can point to ways you've contributed to a project or a person or a group of people or to an organization. If that's something like even if that's something like holding space for a couple or a group to work through their differences, contribution will feels more tangible than purpose, right? Because purpose is this really kind of inner feeling, right? It's like this vitality that you have. And I'm going to talk more about that in a second. But contribution is more about a doing thing, right? It's not always about doing like we think of, kind of hardcore doing. It could be, like I said, it could be holding space for a conflict to resolve. It could be holding space for someone to be able to break their own confines, create their own breakthrough, right? There's a lot of ways that we can contribute, but it has to do with more how we're relating to the outer world and to other people, whereas purpose is really that sense on the inside. Purpose and contribution walk hand in hand through your days, providing you with fuel and direction. The feeling of being on purpose reflects your direct connection with your inner being, your soul self, which I often call my divine self when I think about it for myself. It's like your little self, right? The self of every day, and the great being who animates your body with a portion of her energy. Dance harmoniously together through your days. Visionary activist astrologer Caroline Casey once shared with me that the old definition of enthusiasm is that which makes the God within you dance. What is enthusiasm but your inner fire pumping to the beat of your heart's desire, and how that desire and fire express out into the world? I love that, right? It's like your inner being is dancing to this beat that your soul has, that your soul is like, I want to be here on the planet. I came here to make my contribution. And I know that sometimes we can get really disconnected from that feeling. Like I said, where what you're eating tastes like straw, or you get up and you feel like you have sand in your mouth. Right? And you're kind of just feeling like I got to push myself through my days. That's when you're not feeling on purpose. When you're feeling on purpose, there's this fuel that comes in that lights you up, that makes possible so many more things in your life. The fire of enthusiasm burns away the dross of doubt, suspicion, and fear, opening the clear path before you into your desired future. I'm going to read that part again. The fire of enthusiasm burns away the dross of doubt, suspicion, and fear. And this is where too many of us live too much of the time, is in doubt, suspicion, and fear. And particularly these days, right? Because we're living in a time where so many people are saying so many different things. And sometimes we don't really know what's true. Right? Like we live in this age of misinformation, but what is misinformation is defined differently by different people, right? And so it's kind of like we're looking at, what do I believe? Like what is out there that people are saying, or what information is provided to me? How do I know what to trust, right? And the thing is if we spend too much of our time in that outer focus, trying to discern what information is accurate or not accurate, we get really disconnected from our inner guidance, from our own sense of enthusiasm and purpose and contribution and meaning, because we're giving our power away to those outer forces that are dictating often the information that we receive. So if you have been feeling that doubt, suspicion, and fear at all, I totally get it, right? I fall into it sometimes too. And I'm not really a fear-based person. And yet it's so strong in the collective right now that if you feel that way, I totally get it. And I want to invite you to come back to yourself. Come back to yourself, right? You can still pay attention to some degree to what's going on, but don't give your power away, right? Don't give the meaning making portion of you away to outer forces. Reserve that for yourself. You can review information, but ultimately you get to decide what's true for you, what's meaningful for you, right? And so you want to retain that ability for yourself. It refuses, okay, the fire of enthusiasm refuses to be thrown off track by others' opinions and warnings, preferring the direction channeled from within, right? Not even needing words. Enthusiasm, fire, lights possibilities not visible from inside more compressed and conditioned states of consciousness. When the God within you dances, waves of potential. Okay, this is a quantum theory thing, right? Waves of potential crystallize into particles of form at the focal point of your attention. Okay, enthusiasm's fire lights possibilities in the light realms, in the unified field, in the Varanyagarbha, which is what we call it in the yoga traditions, the great cosmic womb. I always love that one, the great cosmic womb, right? You could call it the universal mind, right? This space where all things are known, and where time doesn't exist the way that we experience it on the earth plane, right? And so how do we access that, right? The fire of enthusiasm lights possibilities in that realm. Okay. Enthusiasm enables us to rise above the machinations of the material world and tap into what's true for us on the soul level. My bumper sticker is soul level, not bumper sticker. My license plate is soul level, by the way. I'm big into the soul level. Okay. But enthusiasm's fire lights possibilities not visible from inside, more compressed and conditioned states of consciousness, which is where most of us live most of the time, right? Compressed and conditioned states of consciousness. And so when I said at the beginning that my purpose in many ways is raising the frequency of the planet, right? Helping us to raise our consciousness, This is what I'm talking about, right? Is we need to elevate ourselves out of compressed and confining ways of being. And when the God within you dances, waves of potential crystallize into form. This is how you manifest, right? You manifest when you access that realm of all possibilities, the unified field. When you access that place and you focus on what you're enthusiastic about, what's lighting you up from the inside, you begin to crystallize from the realm of all potential into form. We go from wave into particle. Right? This is what we've learned from quantum physics. Is we can move from wave to quantum, but to particle by our attention, where we focus our attention. I love what Martin Shaw says. He's a beautiful storyteller from the UK. And he says, we make things holy by the quality of our attention. We make things holy by the quality of our attention. So when we're seeking to live more on purpose and to make the highest and best contribution that we possibly can, then the question is are we lit up from the inside? And are we making things holy by the quality of our attention? What are we focusing on, right? If we're giving our power away to the outside forces that are telling us that the world is falling apart, and there are aspects of the world that are falling apart, some of that is true. Our ecosystems are in dire need of our attention, our healing power. Some of that is true, but a bunch of it is made up Armageddon to try to get you to stay in fear and suspicion so that you are a disempowered person and you can be pushed around by the powers that be. There's that going on as well. And so for us to be able to, again, come back inside, fuel our inner guidance, right? Be able to receive from the guides, the angels that are here to support humanity in our evolution collectively, your guides, your angels, your power animals, however you like to think of the support coming to you from non-physical, are there to help you to tune into what's true for you on the inside and not be so pushed around by outside forces, which is what tends to happen to us. We get in a victimized state when we feel like these outer forces are just pushing us around, right? But when we can tap into the fire of enthusiasm and we can feel that being on purpose, right? Then we are protected in a lot of ways from all of the mishigas that is going on. It's a wonderful Yiddish word, kind of meaning chaos and things are crazy, right? It's like craziness out there in the outer world. Like the when we can not be so impacted by that and instead tune in to what's true on the inside, right? Our lives unfold very, very differently. When we're doing this, your inner divine being is in command. And this is what we want, right? Is we want to have this inner divine being, which is the spirit that is animating this form, right? When that divine being leaves this form, this body will no longer continue to function, right? There is a divine being that is animating this form and it's in command, and your human self, relieved, right, joyfully follows her energetic direction. When we live our lives too much out of our minds, too much out of our minds, right, then we get in trouble because our minds don't actually have the capability that our inner divine being does to understand what our best direction in life is or what our purpose is. Our minds are incredible analytical tools. They're not divine guidance, right? And we need to make the distinction, which is why in human design, we say never make decisions with your mind, because your mind actually isn't capable of that. It's not capable of that. It doesn't settle. It says, what about this? What about that? Oh, let's look at it this way, right? And whereas your divine being, which you will connect with through your authority in human design, your divine being inside will be like, yeah, go this way, go that way, try this. Ooh, stay away from that, right? It has a different perspective. And this is what we're looking for. So when aligned and clear, this relationship, right, between your human self, the part of you that is living in ordinary reality and, has to pay the bills and your taxes and has to take the kids here and there and, needs to make sure that your house is in good shape and that you're not going to, have leaks in your roof, like that part, right, that is managing material reality, right? When she surrenders to your divine self, the divine being within you, your life becomes so much easier. And one of the ways that you know if you are living your life with that divine being in charge is whether or not you feel on purpose, whether or not you have that fire of enthusiasm. The God makes the God within you dance. Well, what is the God within you? It's your divine being, right? It's the divine self dancing within you, right? And so this is a test for you to be able to be like, "Oh, okay. Am I living out of my divine self or not?" And if things that you eat taste like straw, you're not living out of your divine self. I can tell you that for sure. So, I want to just share a little bit with you from my own experience because I think that it might be helpful for you. And when you are listening to me, I want you to be able to really think about your own experience. Okay. So I'm not offering my experience to say it's like yours because it's not. I'm sure it's not. You have a unique experience that is true for you. And the thing a lot of times that happens with purpose, when people come to me for human design reading, it's one of the biggest questions they ask. They're like, "What's my purpose? How do I understand my purpose?" Right? And the thing is that a lot of times in our world today, we think of purpose as an individual thing. Like I have a purpose, you have a purpose, you have a purpose, right? It's an individual thing because we're still living inside of this paradigm of individualism. But it's our purpose is also contextual. It has a lot to do with our family when we grew up, the community we grew up, the time frame we grew up in, what was alive during that period of time, right? Whether we choose to accept a lot of what we received when we were young or if we resisted it and rejected it. Usually my experience is there's a combination of the two, right? And so the context is super important. So I want to give just a little bit of personal context and a little bit of context for you, for all of us in the collective, and offer a perspective on that. And then I also want to do a little practice for us today that I hope is going to help you to create your own breakthrough around being in that more confining, compressed, conditioned way of being so that you can open up a sense of possibility for you around purpose and contribution. Okay, so my parents came of age in the 1950s, and I was born in 1959, so I'm 65, and I grew up in the 60s, and my parents were definitely uh, people of their age. They went to college. My dad. My brilliant overachieving father got his PhD when he was 24. And then my parents got married, and my dad got his first job at Amherst College, and they were there for 5 years, and I was born during that time. My brother was born during that time, so that was the original context that I grew up in. But by the time I was only a year old, my parents had left New England and had moved to Seattle and had left behind the lifestyle that they grew up in. They left behind so many of the things that were normal for them. They wanted a new reality. So this was 1962. And a lot of things in the world were changing, and their context for reality was changing. And I grew up in an predominantly African American neighborhood because my parents didn't only move to Seattle, moved to the other side of the country to a really different culture than the one in New England. We also moved into a predominantly African American neighborhood, which is where I grew up, where I went to school. And so we were in a context that was extremely different than the ones that my parents grew up in. And I was one that was different than most white people I know. And so I have my own context for my sense of purpose that has always been influenced by the fact that that was how I grew up. And my parents became involved in civil rights. One of the things that my daddy is a professor at the University of Washington, teaching Shakespeare and Spenser and, kind of classical literature. But he also participated for 3 different summers in something called Upward Bound, which was a program that I think the University of Washington sponsored it, which was meant to, help kids who, for one reason or another, had either dropped out of high school or had not done well in high school, but were kind of identified as being smart and having potential. And a lot of these kids were people of color, not all of them, but a lot of them were people of color. Some of them had gotten into trouble with the law. Some of them, there were a couple of Vietnam vets, people who'd already gone to Vietnam and come back, and also women who had gotten pregnant in high school, right? And at that time, you had to get out of high school. Like you couldn't go to school if you were pregnant, and this was before Roe v. Wade, right? And so there were these different factors, right? Some of them came from families that were really troubled, and all of that, right? All of those different things that can get in the way of a young person being able getting emotional thinking about it. Excuse me for a second. But all the different life experiences that could get in the way of having a young person be able to really thrive, right? And so my dad participated in this program. I got to meet a lot of these kids. We did camping trips with them. I remember going on a boat trip with them, and he just helped them get their GEDs so they could go to college. That was what he did. Helped them learn the things they needed in order to get a GED, and then the school helped them to get enrolled so that they could go to the University of Washington. It was a very cool thing to do, right? This was completely something that my dad didn't really have like growing up or anything, right? He changed his way of being to want to support these kids. And so this was a context that I grew up in. And then in the early 70s, my parents discovered feminism, and our lives changed again dramatically um, through that. And one of the things that I still carry with me is this notion of consciousness raising. And that was the first time I'd really been exposed to it. I'm sure it happened in civil rights. They probably called it something else, but it is about the waking up to the ways that we've been confined and compressed, right? And conditioned into being less than, into feeling like we don't matter, into feeling like we're just here to serve other people, right? And in our world today, now in 2024, it's like to serve the machine, right? To serve the economy, to serve the industrial military complex, like to serve these other things, right? We've been conditioned to believe that this is our role, this is our purpose, right? So waking up to this and the feminism that I grew up with, that I came of age in because I was a teenager during this time, was the radical notion that women are people. Women are people, just as capable as anybody else, and are divinely inspired to live a full life. That was the feminism I grew up with. And right now, that might not feel very radical, but I can tell you in the 70s, it made a lot of waves, right? And so we have benefited from that. Both men and women and non-binaries and trans people have all benefited by that second wave of feminism that made us just go, wait a minute, why is it that women can't have jobs that are well paying? Why is that? you know, like we just started to question so many different things that have been taken for granted. And so this is a waking up process, right? It is an enlivening process, a consciousness raising process. And so I can say that for me, growing up in an African American neighborhood during the era of civil rights, and then growing up in feminism during the second wave of feminism, are two contexts that have impacted me and influenced me around my contribution and my purpose for my entire life. And I want to just ask you to pause for a second and think about what is true for you in your growing up that has continued to impact you. that you're living out of. Now, I can say that my relationship to those two big influences has changed dramatically over the years, but it's never left me. It's never left me. And I've made choices about how I wanted to express it or how I wanted to work with it. So when I went to graduate school and then became a professor, and was my first career was as a scholar. And my first book is called The Slumbering Volcano: American Slave Ship Revolts and the Production of Rebellious Masculinity. And it was all about consciousness raising that African Americans were doing in the 19th century, and trying to help wake up people to the humanity of Black people. Right? That's what that book is really about. And so it highly influenced me, but I also talked about it in terms of gender. And then I became the director of women's studies at Columbia University, because I was really interested in the questions of gender equality, right? We actually changed the name of the program from women's studies to women and gender studies, because we wanted it to include more people. And we incubated lesbian and gay studies inside of women's studies for a while, because there were kids who wanted to study that, and there wasn't a place for them inside of the academy. So this kind of radical edge has always been with me wherever I went. And I've always been like, how are we going to raise the frequency of the people, of the environment? How do we question the things that people assume are just the way things are, right? And that was a core part of me all through my academic years. And it's really funny, because I look back now and I think about this and I go, so I have a ton of individual circuitry. I mean, I'm primarily individual circuitry and human design. So I've always been on the leading edge of change. And I look back now and I think, I was so ahead of my time back then. It's one of the reasons I left the academy. And now, really in the last 10 years, so many more of what I was talking about then are really being talked about. So it's really funny to kind of see myself as that kind of harbinger, and then to be like, okay, now other people are catching up with that, which is good. It's a good thing. But I didn't find a place for myself in the academy, which is why I left, and why I've been doing independent scholarship and offering teachings outside of the university for a really long time now. So the guiding force, though, for me, or the guiding principle for me through everything I've done ever since then, has been about raising consciousness, has been about raising the frequency of ourselves and our planet, of helping us to wake up to the ways that we have given our power away to these external forces. And what happens when we come back inside ourselves and learn how to really connect with ourselves. So, one of the things I've really seen over the years, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your own life, is there's a lot of energy and power that's released when we realize that we realize the confining conditions that we've been living inside of, and when we make a choice to change. It's not an easy choice a lot of the time. It's not. It's not. We like the familiar. We like to just kind of keep doing the same thing. Our nervous systems kind of like it because it's not energetically expensive. It's really energetically expensive to create change. We have to create new neural pathways. We have to meet with the part of us that gets afraid of change, right? There's a lot we have to do in order to really embrace change and then to create our own breakthroughs. So there's a part of us that kind of is like, are you sure you want to do that? Right. And so there are even internal forces that are saying, I'm not so sure I want to do all that change thing. I kind of want it to stay the way that it's been. And yet the impulse for evolution is the predominant force inside of us as human beings, really as expressions of that creative intelligence of the universe. The life force in us is always wanting to grow, expand, learn, transform, right? It is. That is the core experience of this divine being inside of us, right? And it's the human self that gets like, I'm not so sure. So again, if we put that divine self, that divine being back in charge, which is where she belongs, then everything goes a lot easier, and we're able to meet that resistance that we have to change, and we can move through it. And when we do, When we make a decision and then we practice it, because we have to practice, right? Just making the decision itself and not practicing doesn't really do anything, right? This is why I'm such a big believer in practice, which is what our feminine sovereignty, our sovereign sisterhood is really based on, is this notion of practice, that we have a choice in every moment and every day for us to be uplifting and growing ourselves. And are we? And how can we? So, but when that divine self is really in charge, then we are more able to meet the resistance, to meet the parts of us that want to, with compassion and love, not to force, but to be like, hey, it's okay. Take my hand. Let's do it together. Right. And to move forward into a higher frequency and to expand our consciousness. And I'll just say that, I do not have a religious affiliation and I do not have a religious relationship with Jesus, but I do have a mystical relationship with who I call Yesu, because that was the name that he gave me. And I know is one of his names. And that perspective of that avatar, right? This great avatar was to be able to expand to become the space for all of it, right? To become a non-judgmental, accepting, loving, compassionate space that can see the truth, right? And when we do that, everything transforms as a result, just by being in that field. So I share that with you because I think this is kind of the ultimate practice of spiritual growth, is for us to be able to expand ourselves so that we're not just being thrown around in a world of polarity, right? We can just be like, how can I expand? How can I elevate myself, right? Because this is what the divine self does, is it elevates to a higher perspective and go, okay, I can see what's going on and I can make the choices that are right for me, right? Without having to make other people wrong, without demonizing and all of that. So what makes the God within you dance? Right? What makes the God within you dance? And so I want to just offer this. I didn't write it down, but I drew it here, but I'll just show it for you. Is this Venn diagram, right? Is what is it that makes you feel the most alive? And one of the things you might want to do after this is just pull out your journal and to write for yourself, what are like 5 situations in your life when you felt really alive? You just had tons of energy. You felt so on purpose, right? And you were like, I am using myself to the best of my capacity right now. Like right now, I feel really on purpose sharing this work with you and sharing about my story and being here with my desire to help you to have your own breakthrough out of that confining space and to step into the realm of possibility, right? For me, that makes me feel really on purpose, which is part of the reason I do these things, right? And so for you, what makes you feel on purpose? What makes that fire of enthusiasm grow inside of you? Go and write those things down and see if you can find something common among them. Is there a guiding principle that's there, right? So there's that piece. And then the other piece is what's needed in the world right now, right? And this is the larger context that we are all a part of, right? And we're living in a time when we're waking up to climate change. We're waking up to the devastation that we as a humanity have wreaked on the living world. We're waking up to the true cost of the ways that we've broken power out of every part of the earth that we can find, right? Whether that's forests or rivers or deep, deep down, whether that's coal or oil or gas or whatever, like we're just been breaking power out of the earth everywhere we can. We're waking up to the true cost of that, right? Which is a lot of pollution and toxicity and breakdown of ecosystems, right? So this is a big context that we're in, that we're waking up to. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And then there's other things. We've got a lot of political polarity. We've got a lot of economic, instability. We've got all kinds of things that can make you just feel like, oh God, what's going on in that outer world? So coming back into the self, right? Coming back into that divine self and being like, okay, I'm living in this context right now. How am I navigating it? How do I become stronger on the inside? And this is one of the things I love that my yoga master, Kia Miller, teaches about is how do we become stronger on the inside so that we can navigate the challenges in our outer world with more grace and with more purpose and not feel like we're victims at the mercy of things that are going on outside of us. So I would just want to invite you to be thinking about this, right? And to think about, given that the world is changing so much, is there a shift that you have in how you want to contribute, or a shift around how you want to, what makes you feel on purpose? And I'll just say for me, like one of the things that's happened for me in the last, gosh, it's been about 5 years, is wanting to contribute more to how do we bring the future now? How do we bring the future of more decentralized living, using less power, growing our own food, knowing where our water is coming from, and all of that? And I've actually made a commitment to be helping to create a town, really, in Costa Rica, a small town, but a town in Costa Rica that are based on these principles, and where I get to create a living environment, build a house that has a small footprint and that is based on ecological principles, and where we're also regenerating a tropical forest, which is a huge issue in our world today. Tropical forests are the lungs of the planet, and they're being cut down. So we're helping to, in this particular town, it's an eco villa, has actually 6 villages in it, and we're helping to restore a watershed for a beautiful river. And there's a part of me that is so alive with this, which had not thought about, but is so alive because I always wanted to be somewhere living by a river and living closer to the land. And yet I've lived in cities, not my whole life, but most of my life. And so that has shifted some of my priorities. It's shifted some of my purpose, what makes me feel on purpose. It's shifted some of my contribution. I'm still doing my core work, but I'm also participating in that. And it's pulling me forward into a vision of the future that I feel like I can really get behind. So my invitation to you is to think about, what is your version of that? Like, you don't have to, go and contribute to an eco villa in Costa Rica unless you want to. I'll tell you about it. It's pretty cool. You can just go to laecovilla.com and find out more about it. It's Ecovilla San Mateo. But what's your version of that? What is it that you want to participate in? Right? That's going to light you up. It's going to give you that fire of enthusiasm, but to contribute where you're helping to create the future now. Because I think that that is the antidote to the fear, doubt, suspicion that we have from looking at the outer world and seeing just chaos out there, chaos, conflict, war, people being bombed, people not having enough water, not having enough food. I mean, it's an intense situation. Right. And I know a lot of us either don't look at it or we don't know what to do about it, which I totally get. I mean, I don't really feel like I know what to do either, but I do look for the places like, where can I invest my life force, right? Whatever resources I have. Like, one of the reasons I'm doing this thing in Costa Rica is I want to get money out of the stock market because the stock market is corrupt, right? I want to get money out of the stock market. I want to invest it in something I believe in. And a lot of us are hooked in with golden manacles into the stock market, depending on your, economic status. So it's like, how do we break out of those manacles, right? And do something different. So my invitation for you is just to be opening an inquiry. Don't try to come up with it's this or it's that or it's whatever. Open up possibilities. Open it up rather than trying to confine it too soon, and see what arises for you. So we're going to do a little practice, and I want you to imagine here, like, what is it that already has been lighting you up, and what is something that matters to you that's happening in the world? There's so many things, so many places. There's a part for everyone, and everyone matters. What you do matters. Everyone has a role to play in helping to create the future now, whether that's with animals, whether it's with ecosystems, whether it's with children, whether it's with the work that you're doing in the world. Like, there's a place for everyone. right? So what is that really matters to you out in the world, and what makes you alive, and where do they marry and overlap, right? Where do they do that? And that little place where the hearts came out of, that's your sweet spot. And that's what you want to be looking for. So, um, oh, okay. Goodbye, mindful. The replay will be available for sure. All right, we're gonna go maybe till about 15 minutes after the hour. So please do stay on if you can. Come back and watch the replay later if you can. Okay, so we're gonna do a practice now. And we're going to do just a little bit of Kriya work coming out of Kundalini Yoga. And then we're going to do a kind of meditative practice that's going to help you to get connected to that sense of purpose inside of yourself. Okay, so let's just go ahead and rub our hands together. Take a couple big breaths. Move yourself around on your chair. And this is one of those things that you really can't be doing something else. So if you're multitasking, either stop or don't do this. And we're going to do something called Prana Shakti to begin. I love to do this. It's a wonderful energy boosting practice. So you're going to have your hands out here, but they're going to be up, and you're going to bring it down. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually move so that you can see me. I can do this. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Hopefully you're going to be able to see my arms a little bit, just so you get a visual here. So my arms are up. Okay, they're at about 60 degrees. And arms are up there about 60 degrees. You're going to grab light, and you're going to let your arms drop and strike the sides of your body. Now, it doesn't have to be hard. You can actually just kind of drop them, and it'll strike the sides of your body. And we're going to it's kind of an intense breath, or not intense, enthusiastic breath. And let's do this with enthusiasm. And the thing is you may not be able to do the whole thing. That's okay. Do what you can, and then stop and visualize yourself doing the rest of it. Just imagine that you're doing the rest of it. And if you have a shoulder injury, you may not be able to do the arms at all, and that's totally fine. Just imagine yourself doing it. Okay, so we're going to do this 108 times. Here we go. That's 30. $60. Stay with me if you can. Take a break if you need to. I can. I will. I must. 90. Big breath in and hold. And squeeze the pelvic floor. Bringing everything into the center line. Hold. Sending the energy right up the front of the spine into the center of the head. And bringing the fingertips to touch above your head. And then putting the palms outward, stretch and reach, and take command of your energy field. Take command of your auric field. Good. Palms are up in your lap, eyes closed. Just breathe for a moment and notice how you feel. Good. See if you can feel your body from the inside. Trace the outline of your body energetically from the inside. Just meet yourself for a moment, tuning into your heart center, feeling your heart beating, Having a moment of gratitude and blessing for your heart. Without your heart beating, there is no you in this form. And yet we forget so much of the time. Okay, we're going to do something else to come a little closer. We're going to do something else to help open the heart a little bit more. Okay. So, can you guys tell me, can you hear me okay? I know I'm moving this mic around. Can somebody just put in the chat there? Yeah, I can hear you okay, or no, I can't hear you anymore because I've got a new stand, so I'm playing with it. I haven't done it before. I haven't really used it. Your third eye actually hurts a teeny bit, almost like a pre-headache gone now. Interesting, right? Well, that's, yeah. Okay, so let's see what happens with this next one, the sacred spiritual healing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do, we're going to, let's see, we're going to inhale and reach our arms outward. See, hands are in fists, right? Okay, so we're going to go. Okay, so we're just reaching. I am arching in my back just a little here on the reaching outward and then coming in a little bit. So there's a little bit of spinal flexion while we're doing this. This helps to lubricate the spine and it helps open up the heart. Okay, so let's do this together. We're going to do it for 2 minutes. Sorry, my timer just decided to have a life of its own. All right, here we go. So we're going to inhale. So it's not a, okay, it's just through the O mouth. Okay, here we go. And as you're doing this, you want to just be blessing your heart, creating more space inside of yourself for you. And close your eyes. Do this on your own timing. Breathing right into your heart, feeling your heart expand and just letting go. And as you're doing this, open to receive on the inhale and just exhaling, release on the exhale. Good. Keep going. Just enjoy moving your body, creating more space. And again. Letting your whole spine participate. Like you're undulating in the waves of all potential. Good. And next time you have an inhale, hold. Just hold for a moment. Squeeze the pelvic floor in towards the center line. Push the energy up the front of the spine, right into the center of the head. And yes, you may feel this in your third eye. Hold. Yes, as long as it's comfortable for you. Good. And exhale, hands in your lap, palms up. Just settle for a moment. Allow the prana to find its right place. Be very still. And then notice your energy. Notice how you feel. Connect this compared to where you felt a moment ago and how you felt this morning before you started. Just see if you can memorize this quality of energy. You are raising your vibration, your frequency with these practices. Just take a moment to notice that you are and see if you can memorize this quality of energy. Because as you do, then when we complete for the day and you get up and you go out through your day, you'll have this higher frequency, which is why I always recommend to people that they have an energy practice and they have a regular spiritual practice that they do in the mornings if possible. I dedicated a whole chapter in my book to what I call your daily date with the divine. Good. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to do here, just going to come back in here. The last piece of this particular practice. Okay, we're just going to take the left hand on the heart and the right hand over that. And I'm going to invite you to do what we call Satal Breath. So Satal Breath is we breathe in through the rolled tongue and then exhale through the nose. And if you can't roll your tongue, you just do it. You just do this. It's a genetic thing. You can't learn how to do it. Either you can do it or you can't do it. So I can do it. But if you can't do it, there's nothing wrong with you. You just didn't get that gene. So it's a genetic thing. So if you can. So we're just going to breathe in and we're going to start with a count of 5 and breathe out, count of 5. So we want it to be even. And as we're doing this, it's a very calming and centering and cooling breath. And I'm going to invite you just energetically, not with your mind, but invite your divine self to help you feel and help you get a felt sense of and an inner knowing about what makes you feel on purpose and about your contribution, whatever that means for you. Okay. And I'll talk us through this a little bit, but we're going to go for 5 minutes. And let me just show you what it looks like so you can see. So it's like this. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. And you can do this more or less on your own time, but just try to go slow. It helps to create a meditative state and just be tuning in right into your heart because your hands here and you bring your attention here, you're going to make your heart holy by the quality of your attention. And so you're going to be tuning in there. And you also want to receive from your heart. So this is a reciprocity experience where you're both blessing your heart, you're bringing life force through your breath to your heart, you're blessing your heart, you're having gratitude for your heart, and then you're also receiving from your heart. What is it your heart wants to share with you? What is it that this locus of power, which is where your divine self is in this inner core of your being? What is it that she wants to share with you? Okay, here we go. We're going to go for 5 minutes. Go ahead, closing your eyes. Breathing into your belly and your heart. Tuning in. letting your awareness of the outer world drop away, bringing your attention into your heart, and into the center of your head, and into your belly. So you can tune into this core of light, which is your divine self, your divine inner being. Don't let your mind get involved. There's a part of you that already knows how to do this. Just soften and surrender and allow it in. Anytime your mind wanders, just come back to your breath, come back to your belly and your heart and the center of your head. Good. Just letting yourself become very calm and centered, feeling the ground underneath you, and just beginning to open into the inquiry of what makes me feel alive. What brings you joy? What could you engage with for hours or days or even weeks or months and not get bored? And what is it that you care about that's happening in the world right now that you would like to see shift in some way? Where would be the sweet spot of you offering your contribution that makes you feel so alive, so on purpose, that fuels enthusiasm within you and something that is needed in our world? Just drop this inquiry into the center of your heart and ask the creative intelligence to support you in your inquiry. Ask your divine self, the divine being in the center and core of your being, to help you, to help open out your awareness, to help bring you possibilities and potentials, to help melt your resistance, your fear, your doubt, your suspicion, your worry, to help you to step out of the lower frequencies of the material world and to lift yourself into a higher state of consciousness, where you can expand your compassion and your love and your caring so much that you live inside of a strong, stable bubble of your own soul light that enables you to move through the world with grace, enables you to meet the challenges that inevitably arise with curiosity, to know that you either have the resources that you need or you can call to you the resources you need through the people that you know, the networks that you're a part of, through your own magnificent intelligence. And that you were born into this time. You agreed to come here during this great turning, this time of great transformation where we are moving in to this age of Aquarius, where we're moving into a more liberated state, more expansive state. And in order to fully move into that, we are letting go of the confining conditioning that has compressed us into small versions of ourselves that are not accurate. So taking a moment now, dropping the Satal breath, just pausing, tuning in. Listening if there's a message for you from your own divine being, words, feelings, images, or if there's just quiet. Deep state of quiet and stillness is the state of your divine self. And just know that this experience that you have started here will continue with you, particularly if you decide to focus upon it. Write in your journal, talk to trusted friends, mull this over on your walks, whatever is meaningful for you, and to trust that more illumination will come to you. Good. Let's rub our hands together. Reaching your arms up, charging yourself with light. Yes. Activating, fueling your light body. Good. Thank you, my friends. So, my invitation to you is to continue what you've begun here and not just let it fall into the ethers, and to work with this, see what arises. And I would love to hear from you about what happens. Those who are here live and who are going to be watching the replay of this. And if you enjoyed this, I want to let you know that I, for the first time, am creating a book club for my book. I just put the link for it in the chat there. So I released this book last year, and it's a big book. I mean, it's a big book. It's a path of awakening. It's 8 pillars. And so we're going to start gathering once a month to talk about themes from the book. It'll be interactive, more interactive than this is, right? We'll do it on Zoom. It'll be more interactive. And you'll get to bring what's inspiring for you. We'll get to talk about different topics. And when you do decide to join this, you also will receive access to the 10 days of steps of sovereignty, which was originally offered as a live intensive that you just get as a bonus. And so I encourage you to come and join us if you want to. Like I said, the link is there, and I'll make sure that it is in the description for this as well, and I'll put it out on my email list. So if you haven't gotten on my email list, you can go get my ebook on getting started with human design. That'll put you on my email list, and that's at sovereigntybydesign.com/ebook. And I would love to share this with you if you would like to check it out. I think that it is one of those things that is going to unfold in your life. I know it continues to unfold in my life all the time. It totally worked me to write this book, I'll tell you, and it's still working me to just be talking to people about it. And so I'm really happy to have been able to share with you today about purpose and contribution from the book. There's a lot more in there, obviously. And, one thing you can do is just go get the book. It's on Amazon. And if you want to dig more into purpose and contribution. But that's one of the ways that you can participate if you want to. You want to do some more work together. And then also our feminine, sorry, I keep saying that because I've got feminine sovereignty in my head, our Sovereign Sisterhood is also available as well. I'll make sure the links are in the description to that. And if you decide to join the sisterhood, you actually get the book club as a bonus. So yeah, I'd love to have you come and participate if there are ways that you want to engage more together. Okay, I would love to hear from you. We'll wind up soon, but I would love to hear from any of you, any comments that you have. How was this practice for you? How are you feeling from this? How's it landing for you? It's really a beautiful way that you can respond to me. I've done this in the spirit of reciprocity. If you let me know what you got out of it, and it also helps you to understand more about what you got, because we tend to kind of go from thing to thing to thing and not really actually pay a lot of attention to it. So I invite you to do that and to let me know, and I'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to give you a minute to do that. I'm just going to take a look at the comments here. Okay, so Mindful Posse was here, and he had to, I think he's a he, or she's a she, I'm not sure, can't tell from the picture. Mindful Posse. All right, doesn't matter. Thank you for being here. Yes, and Debbie's here. Hi, Debbie. I don't know if you're still here. Debbie is here. And amen, amen, or amen. Yes, yes, truth is inside. Absolutely. Oh, hello, Beth from Soul Prison Podcast. Nice to see you here. Oh, and Mindful Posse says, love hearing your story and background. Okay, great. And for sharing your light. Radiates. Thanks for the inspiration. Awesome. Amin says, let's dance from the inside out and dance together in the play of life. Absolutely. And then, yes, and I am going to post this. I mean, it will be in the live section of my YouTube channel, and I will send it out. I'll let people know about email in email as well. It'll also be posted in our Becoming Sovereign Quantum Retreat Center, which you can check out there, becomingsovereign.mn.co, which is free to join, and the Sovereign Sisterhood is inside of there. Okay. And then Sacred Spiritual Healing says, wow, third eye area actually hurts a teeny bit, almost like a pre-headache, and then gone now. Yeah. So when you are building that energy, so that's what we did. We built energy, and then we harnessed it, and then we directed it, right? And this is a big thing that we do in Kundalini Yoga. And I teach this in my programs and with my clients all the time. It's like, how do we build our energy, harness it, and direct it? Right. And when you do that, you might hit a little block in your energy in your third eye. So, right. And it might be like, oh, wow, there's a little pain or sensation there. And then it goes. Right. And so you may feel that in different parts of your body. I mean, even when we do something like this and you start to feel like, I don't have it anymore, but you might start to feel the burn in your shoulders. Part of that is muscular, right? And I've had built some muscles from doing a lot of this, but part of it is also energy releasing. Right. And this is why we like to do the energy practices, because we want to get out of that confining way of being. Right. We want to liberate ourselves from that. And the energy practices help us do that. Robin. Oh, hello, Robin. Releasing much grief. Okay, great. Oh, thank you for saying I'm a gift. I appreciate that. And S, I don't know who S is, but your book is amazing in both information and how it's presented. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you'll come to the book club. It's just $8 a month. It's like $7.97 or something, which is, really just kind of way to help cover some of the costs for it. Nobody's making money on that, but just to help cover some of the costs of me actually being able to present all the things that I do. So I hope that you'll come, and any of you who are interested. And I do have to say, it's a profound book. It really is. I mean, it's the funny thing. If any of you have written stuff, like I've gone back and I read it now, and I'm like, wow, like who wrote that? because it was divinely guided. I mean, of course I wrote it, but you know what I mean? There was a way that a lot of it was. And it's like I said, it still works me. Anyway. And Sasha, hi Sasha, beautiful experience and very timely. Melanie says, excited about the book club. I just discovered you and purchased the book this week. Oh, that's great, Melanie. I'm really glad to hear that. And then S says, I came late, but did all 3 practices. Awesome. Several ideas came up as confirmation that I'm on the sweet spot path. Oh, I love hearing that. That's excellent. So yeah, so you can, the replay will be up on YouTube, but I think it's up immediately. And I do want to say to those of you on Facebook, I've been focusing on you on Facebook, but I know it's streaming over there on Facebook too. But I know right now YouTube is my main, and the Sovereign Sisterhood, Becoming Sovereign, are my main communities. So, all right. Well, I want to thank you again for those of you who are here live, and to those of you who are going to be watching this in the replay. You know what? I'll just put links down in the description, so you can come right back and get those for the book club. Or, like I said, if you're interested in the Sovereign Sisterhood, which is where every month we work through a series of let me start that again. Every month we have a series of live events, and we begin with a theme of the month. And then we have a practice session where we work with the theme more creatively and energetically and in an embodied way. We had a really great one earlier this week. And then we have conversation among members on that 3rd week. And then I show up and we have a group conversation. I answer questions, provide coaching, whatever it is that you want to talk about. So that's one part of the Sovereign Sisterhood if you want to participate in that. And this month we are working with how we're co-creating with the flow of life and pillar 1 in feminine sovereignty, and also our type and strategy in human design. And then there's also a lot of curated content also available in there. There's all kinds of stuff that are, there's curated courses in human design. You get the book club as a bonus if you want to participate in that. There are other videos on feminine sovereignty. There's a bunch of training on human design. There's a bunch of stuff on Kundalini yoga. So it's a rich library. It's not so much a course as it is an environment and a context in which we grow together and we support each other. So, oh, okay, great. Hi, Cheryl. So you're in Becoming Sovereign. Great. Yeah, message me. I would love to hear from you. That would be great. All right, my dear. So these are ways that we can continue to work together and go deeper. And then there are 3 more episodes right now in the Life Mastery series, and there's a playlist on YouTube for that, and they're listed in the description for each one of these, so you can go and find them there. And they're all on topics that are drawn from feminine sovereignty and from human design. So thank you for being here. So grateful for you, and I look forward to when we meet next. Okay, bye for now. Mwah.